today. I forgot that this was still going. This is ChillPoint. I actually totally forgot I set that up. I had a whole thing planned too, and then I got distracted. Seems. Nice. Yeah. Past Paul played a gag on present day Paul.
Yeah. It's good. That's how you know you're really a high level prankster, Paul. If you can get yourself.
Yeah. And live on air. If you can get yourself live on air, that's good too.
Yeah.
If I had actually
limitless.
done the actually responsible thing and checked the intro before we went live.
Oh yeah.
But no.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome to ChillPoint, the show where we talk about this week's video game news and give you some more background info on this week's CheckPoint, which went up on YouTube last night.
Yesterday. Yes, last night. May 6th.
Afternoon.
2021.
So I everybody Heather and B should be unmuted now.
Oh good.
For people who are asking about that.
Yeah, okay, people are still saying we're muted, and I think their chat is just full of pranksters now at this point.
I see.
Okay.
That or maybe the leg is behind.
So let's talk about this week's CheckPoint. And sorry to interrupt your iPhone game or whatever you were doing. Picross there, B.
Yeah, the game you recommended several weeks ago, actually.
If we could get into this episode,
ChillPoint was supposed to be a show about video games. Well, Paul, I'm playing video games.
I put my book away and pulled out my video games. Ready for class.
And speaking of video games, do you want to make some video games? Because our first story is that Nintendo's got a new make your own video game thing called Game Builder Garage coming out. And for me, this was one of those things where I was like, considering, obviously there's Mario Maker and, other consoles and things have all sorts of game building things, but considering the contortions people have put Mario Maker through in order to make games that are not Mario-like games.
Yeah.
I feel like having a game builder thing that is actually designed to do that, there could be some fun stuff there. What
I love about this is that this is the first time I think that Nintendo has made a from scratch game building application that really seems very open to a lot of stuff, because WarioWare DIY isn't really you can make a lot of different games with it, but this
I thought there was some stuff in Labo in the programming section of it that did some it's little things.
But I think it's the level of restriction, right? It's like Mario Maker was you can make all sorts of games, but what you're restricted to is largely the Mario format. You are restricted to a side-scrolling, the side-scrolling life. You're restricted to platforming tools and whatever. That's those kind of things. This does not look like Game Builder Garage. When they show the first thing, it's like, oh, so we're going to make nothing but endless runners, is what it kind of felt like to me. And it's like, no, that's just part of the initial tutorial stages, where it's like you might have to take a lot of tutorials, but it's like you get through the tutorials and it's like, we're going to show you how to make this thing where you can move along and you can jump and then you can size the obstacles, and the obstacles are things that like interfere with you. But you'll be able to make like a space shooting game that looks like it auto scrolls on its own, or you'll be able to make like what looks like free running 3D games. And I'm like, the
Yeah, no, it
departure
looks really
by
interesting.
which
Wow.
those things differ from each other. It's
'Cause,
like this is a much larger project than just drag things to like make the man jump through the maze, right?
there's like RPG Maker, which is limited to kind of its genre and its top down,
Right.
I think, methods.
And I don't know if Game Builder Garage will let you make RPGs, like JRPG style games.
And I mean, at a certain point, obviously, because you presumably can't get at least very deep into like typing on a Switch.
Yeah.
I mean, you could. There's a keyboard, but it's certainly you wouldn't want to do a lot of it. So there's
Yeah.
obviously there's a limit to how complicated you can get without being able to just actually like type in arbitrary stuff. But I'm sure that you can do all sorts of very interesting things. And I mean, it'll be interesting to see what kinds of, Mario Maker had the whole sort of distribution system too. And you could like, play random games, play random Mario adventures that other people had made and all this kind of stuff. So the kind of how to put your games out there into the world is an interesting aspect of it, which I don't think they've shown off yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it only just dropped on Thursday, Wednesday, some like earlier this week. The announcement just dropped in the afternoon. That this was a thing. It's coming out like June 11th, which I believe is like a day before E3 is supposed to happen.
Yeah.
So chances are good they'll have some stuff in their presentation. I could even see them being like, here's some codes to things we've made or player content or something that's E3 specific, because they've done that with I think they've done that with Mario Maker
Yeah.
and such as well. So
there's an intense kind of the thing that got me too was that a lot of the inbuilt functionality, right? Like I mentioned in the story, it's like you're going to learn how hard it is to make a video game when your only job in the video game making of the video game is to basically define the logic of how the game is supposed to work and because while you might have to define control functions, you don't have to define the physics engine which governs what a jump looks like. Right?
Right.
You don't have to define gravity in a game. You don't have to define how the camera is supposed to follow a character. All those things have been set up, and that'll be the things where people start finding, well, there's a restriction here because I want it to operate like this or like that. And it's like, sure, but all that stuff has been abstracted out. You don't have to worry about that for the time
what
being.
you're talking about is the making of the game engine portion, which this is what they've already done essentially.
Yeah, they want you to start with, here's a whole bunch of stuff and here's a whole bunch of ways these things are supposed to work. And I love the fact that it's not a new idea. The connect the dots kind of architecture, right? That is a thing that has existed before. But it is interesting to see that it's like they've committed to making a builder that works in this way to teach you the fundamentals in ways that don't require that you have to write the code. And I'm fascinated to see how that's going to encourage people to make stuff for this. But I also think that it's going to operate at a level where, like, they shut down the old Mario Maker, and Mario Maker 2 I think is still running, but at some point that's going to shut down too. And I'm like, because interest wanes over time. So will they make this, and then it'll be like, but then of course interest will wane over time with this?
I mean, it depends. What their plans are for this. I don't like predicting this far out when a game's not even out.
Sure.
And I don't know how it works. Possibly,
and I'm curious as to know sort of what level they're targeting. And as people mentioned in the chat, even Unity and other like professional level development tools do have their own versions of sort of node based visual designer things. Obviously, it's way more complicated though, because inherently. But like, I wonder if like is is this thing at a point where it's like, are people actually going to be able to make, like, for lack of a better term, like real games?
Yeah.
As in, like, a game that you could actually sell independently from the Game Builder Garage game? Like, I feel like probably not, but
Well, does Dreams let you do that? Because Dreams was Sony's version of a game making thing, where you could make games. It's much more complicated,
I mean,
from what I understand. But
like, I don't know if you'll be able to, like, a game that you build for Game Builder Garage is probably not something that people will be able to pay money for. I don't think it's going to be like Roblox in that way, because I think Roblox is. I had no idea what Roblox was until I looked it up like a little while ago, and from the sounds of it, Roblox is like this Minecraft-ish kind of environment, but you can make tiny games to operate within this huge environment. And then people can pay you money on Roblox's like marketplace, so they can buy whatever thing that you've made for like a couple bucks or $5 or $10, so that they can play your cool little Roblox game that you've made. And that it's a huge moneymaker, and I'm just like,
very
I'm
much a going
shocked.
concern.
Yeah.
Especially for a game that, like, we don't even really hear about it much. Like, occasionally you hear a ton of money got made on it, but like, I feel like it doesn't hit the big the sort of video game news consciousness that often. I guess it's targeted at quite a younger audience.
Yeah.
But
and I mean, I don't, and I think that's probably part of the reason why journos aren't picking up on it, because nothing has happened in it that has caused. That's anything that's probably happened in that is probably drama and not controversy.
Well, okay, but like this argument comes up a lot where it's like, oh, who plays Pokemon Go anymore? No one could possibly play that, and it's like Pokemon Go has made more money than ever.
Yeah,
and it's like a bunch of people still play PUBG, but nobody fucking talks about PUBG in journalism. We are all talking about Fortnite because Fortnite is putting out new packs and doing a new season like every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So just because you don't hear about it in journalism doesn't mean it's not a thing or it's not popular.
Yeah, the sort of bubble that you get into where it's like my favorite example of that recently is that thing with the we talked about that server fire that affected Rust, and the angle that I got on it was, oh, the server fire happened that messed up a bunch of Rust servers. That's kind of funny because you can light your other people's stuff on fire in Rust and destroy it, and that happened in the real world. That's kind of funny. And then I started looking at it and realized that this was actually a really big deal that knocked off something like 5% of all .fr domain names.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh.
yeah, like the bubble of stuff you read from certain sections, like even
Rust
CheckPoint
was a very, very small part of it.
Has its own kind of bubble, right? Like, we only do so many stories a week, so whenever we see the comments, they're like, "What? No take on such and such story." It's like, no, we did these other ones, or maybe we didn't even read that one, or maybe we didn't even think it was funny enough to include.
And also, of course, lots of interesting things happen in the world and in the world of video games that just aren't funny, or we don't have an angle on it. That's not to say that very important things don't happen that we don't report on, because if we have nothing in particular to say about it, then we won't report on it, even if it is a big deal.
And then you get the interest section. It's like Graham will talk about PUBG things a lot of the time because he likes to make up funny names for it. Or Beach will talk about a lot more Nintendo stuff than maybe Graham will, because Beach reads the Nintendo stuff.
And if if a person writing the story is interested in that particular subject, they tend to know more about it anyway. So, you don't end up. I remember we always end up with problems when we're trying to write a story about like League of Legends or
Eve.
Or Eve or something, where it's like, what we have to like, or even we've had problems in the past, like WoW, being like phoning up, talking to like, calling up, James or Adam or somebody and be like, okay, I need for this joke, I need an example of like a stupid place in that people might go and wow. I don't know where that would be, but or it's like a really overpowered weapon that everyone hated in WoW. What is that? I need
Or
that for
if I
the
make this analogy, does this actually make sense, or do I
yeah.
sound like an idiot?
Yeah.
Anyway.
So my feeling on Game Builder Garage is that it's going to have a smaller audience. It's going to have the same kind of audience that went to Mario Maker. It's going to be a smaller audience. The amount of people who are going to buy this are going to be a smaller amount than bought Mario Maker. I have a feeling because it right on the package it's saying this is a thing where you have to make your games from scratch essentially, right? It's like no one's picking this up thinking that it's a bunch of games already made, right?
And like Mario Maker, you could have a lot of fun without making any levels, right? Like it was just infinite 2D Mario levels for you to play if you wanted to.
Second one you could. The second one came with a story thing that was built in. I think the first one you had to build stuff.
Oh, okay.
In order to get access to all the online stuff?
In order to do stuff. No, you could do the online thing, but like in terms of like you're saying, oh, they shut down Mario Maker, and it's like, yes, they shut down the online. I think you can still technically play the Wii U game. But like the second one came with a bunch of levels that all the devs had put into the game.
Right.
So like even if you didn't want to build anything or do an online component because maybe you don't want to pay for online or whatever, there's still a game there.
Right. But so the way that I feel though about Game Builder Garage is like I think that's going to be like the funnel has gotten even tighter. That the amount of people who are going to get a copy of this, because for me it's like I'm interested in it, but I don't have the time and not really the patience or inclination to sit down and code a game. Like I don't have that kind of motivation within me to say, you know what has always been living inside me is I need to make myself an endless runner. That's never been something that I've really wanted to do. So
I just hate running. I hate stopping running. I want to just run forever.
If I could do that in real life, so I want a game where I can do that. So I glance off this hard. I think it's super cool. I can't wait to see what people develop. And if people make some really cool stuff and it's like the only way to play this is you have to go through Game Builder Garage to do it, then maybe it's worth actually picking up a copy and trying stuff out to see like what people make.
I want to see. I want to see more about the game. I want to know if it's a thing of like, because I think that's the thing with RPG Maker is even if you didn't want to make RPGs, you buy the game and you can play them. I think there's ways to do it without buying the game.
Right.
I've never really fully looked into that one.
I think people could compile RPG Maker things as like independent pieces that could be distributed.
Yeah. Because I think there are some RPG Maker games that even came to Switch just on their own that are even in the eShop.
But like I feel like with Game Builder Garage, the like the floor is lower than Mario Maker, as in it will be, you can make games that just don't work or don't do anything or whatever. Like Mario Maker, you put a couple things there and you can play Mario. Like it's there's a base level that's pretty easy to do. Pretty much anybody can do it. But on the other hand, of course, the ceiling on Game Builder Garage, I mean, frankly, we don't know, right? It could how much of a game you can make with it.
Yeah. I mean, it was surprising to see that after they went for a 2D jump over things, that when they showed you a bunch of images of different things going on, that they did have 3D and other stuff in it. So it's like, there's...
I guess they wanted to...
Maybe you even start with that. Maybe you're like, what angle of thing do you want to do with?
Yeah.
I guess they wanted to emphasize that it isn't just more Mario Maker.
Yeah, when you're teaching somebody programming, you don't necessarily drop them into like, the strictest, hardest stuff right away. That's why everyone used to teach like basic, and it's why they used to teach Turbo Pascal or they teach Java, or now I guess Python's kind of the thing. And then when you get like through a few classes, it's like, okay, time to start C. Like you gotta, at some point, if you're gonna get really into it, you probably want to start learning C or C++ or Objective-C or whatever, or that kind of thing. But the learner language idea of let's start you on some stuff that kind of you don't have to worry about memory allocation so much. You don't have to worry about these like strict typing. It's like we'll give you a bit of sense to do this, and then eventually learning that's an argument people have a lot too. But where is it good to start? That kind of thing. This is just another take on where do you start people if they want to learn how to do these things.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, even if this isn't a game development platform, as a learning tool, I mean, it seems like it's going to be great. I think that it could be a lot of fun for, especially like for kids who want to, who are interested in the area and want to kind of get into it. But
Well, and here's
and
the
maybe
thing, it's cheaper than Mario Maker.
sparking that interest in video game development that then goes on to actually moving into other stuff. So.
Also, I want to use this opportunity to head the chat off on starting any sort of programming language purity discussions. We're not doing that here today. Just cut that shit out right now.
Remember, B
I don't care if you talk about the experiences and the fun you had doing it back in the day. We're not saying that A is better than B, so please cut that shit out immediately.
Well, no, of course A isn't better than B. You have to move. You have to go to C.
All right, let's stop dragging this conversation out because it's literally a game is coming.
Yeah.
So, Blizzard is having to defend their trademark on Diablo, which, because there's a little doggy named Diablo in a TV show that's going to be coming out on Fox. Which is like,
when I first read this, I thought that it had to do something with there's an actual, like, Fox Media is making a show about an actual devil they're calling Diablo, who is big and designed the same way that the other Diablo was. I'm like, oh, okay, good for Blizzard. Yeah, I guess get in there and defend your trademark. Now I'm like,
I mean, there's not even any particular reason. Like, it seems dumb from Blizzard's point of view, but also from Fox's point of view, like, it doesn't seem like there's any particular reason why the dog is called Diablo. Like, as Graham ended it, he's probably, could they just change him to Damien or something else. Like, it doesn't really matter. And I mean, I guess this is one of those things where Blizzard just wants to, like, put the kibosh on this kind of thing as quickly as possible, rather than let it get rather than sort of let it get established, so that and then Fox, if Fox wants to do something with it later on, they can point to this. They can point to merchandise and stuff for this property as like, well, we did this and they didn't say anything, so because that kind of stuff can happen. So I guess it makes sense, but it is silly.
It's not. I don't think that it's silly that Fox is already setting themselves up to be like, "Hey, we're planning to trademark a bunch of potential marketing stuff for an animated character for a show that we're developing," because, frankly, Fox has a very long history of, hey, The Simpsons got. If you weren't alive in the '90s, you don't know all the shit that The Simpsons got plastered on pretty goddamn quick.
Also, Fox is Disney, right? If you follow the chain up, Fox eventually turns into Disney.
Yeah, but this idea, like, it's like, this is a dumb fight to have, clearly. And the whole trademark defending thing, like
trademark fights generally are.
But I wonder I wonder what'll happen. Like the fallout with this, we'll hear in probably a few months or whatever. And I just kind of wonder if Activision's going to go to court, and if the person at the thing is going to be like, so let's see, you have Diablo, which is the Lord of Darkness, the Prince of the Flies, whatever the hell, right? Like, you have all this, and then you have Diablo, a dog. Also, Diablo is a Spanish word that just means the devil. And see whether or not the judge is going to be like, there's no trademark confusion, there's going to be no trademark collision here. You guys can both go about your day, have fun doing it. Is how I think it's probably going to end up working out.
I don't think we even hear about it. I don't think it's going to be interesting in the least.
Enter into into the court. Exhibit A, dog wearing a devil outfit.
Right.
Dog, adorable confusion. Dog wearing a devil costume.
Yeah, we're making fun of it, but like, trademark laws and defending of your trademarks and stuff is generally a big deal for the company to go through, even if it's clearly a dumb fight, and it'll get whatever it'll get, and then we'll all move on with our lives.
Yeah, I bet you this is a lot of like everyone going. Like I think that's just every party involved is just being like, I can't believe we have to do this, but if we don't, then we don't. The judge is probably doing it. The lawyers on both sides are probably doing it. They're probably like, nobody wants to be here doing this. But if we don't, then at some point someone's gonna do it.
My brain just immediately was mad at you for breathing into the microphone.
Oh
That
yeah,
is not clipped to you
yeah,
when you did that.
yeah.
I like. This is also what I like about occasionally stuff happens like this where they'll go back and forth for a while, and it's so far it's not the case in this time, but sometimes these companies will go back and forth in situations like this, especially when you have an entity like Disney involved. And this actually happened not this happened on television where with Comedy Central and another TV station where they had litigation back and forth about a character until it worked out that they were both owned by the same company.
Nice.
But it was they were like, wait a minute, we're both owned by, and it's just like when corporations get so big that they don't know all the different parts.
And these lawyers are like, it's not like it's like, oh, we're gonna, everyone's gonna get a big payday out of this. It's like both the lawyers for Activision Blizzard are probably part of the legal team for Activision Blizzard, and the lawyers for Fox Media are part of the legal team for Fox Media. They're all getting paid already. This is just busy work to them.
This is just what's on our to-do list for Tuesday.
Yeah,
it's not even.
It's hardly worth it. Should we move on to the next story?
Yeah.
Or do you have something further, Heather?
No. Okay. I'm just looking something up.
Okay, cool.
More dumping on the Stadia. I mean, it's just, as Beach says in the story, like, and as we talked about at the beginning, like, if Stadia just kind of goes along and does its thing, we don't have anything to talk about.
Yeah.
But stuff happens, and in this particular case, we talked earlier about that Jade Raymond left right when they closed down their internal studio, and she went off to make her own studio, and now the thing that everyone assumed was going to be happening is happening, which is everybody is just kind of moving over.
I kind of buried that a little bit, but I really wanted to lean on it. The part where I say Haven is aptly named as other ex-Stadia devs have flocked to it, and it's like 6 more people who worked at Stadia Games and Entertainment under Jade or with Jade have been picked up to work at Haven. And thing I got to add too, Haven is based out of Montreal. This is a Canadian game studio again. Like this is, I don't know if everyone had to where SG&E was located, if they were located in LA or whatever, but I imagine it's like Jade had anywhere she could work in the world at this point. She could put her studio anywhere, and she's like, I'm going to Montreal. That's a hotbed of development, and it's in Canada. I have no idea if Jade is actually Canadian or not.
She is Canadian, yeah.
That's awesome. I love to hear about Canadian companies. There's only 37 million of us in the world, and so when we start doing stuff that's really cool, I like to concentrate on it. And if she's attracting ex-Stadia devs to come work on her team, just for the fact that it's there, like I don't know if she's headhunting, or I don't know if they're like, oh shit, Jade went and made a new studio, we should go work there because it was good working under her. And it's like that's the thing I want to get across.
I feel like at this point it's not headhunting. It's like, you want to come over? Like it's it's not like a hard sell.
Netflix and code. Yeah,
looking because we got a comment that said she was actually a producer, not a game dev, because you called her a game dev.
Well, I mean,
and I trying to find out. I'm like, she might have been a producer. She could be a game dev. She could be both.
There's a lot of shit that she did and that she helped to create. Like I did lean on that she helped create Assassin's Creed and helped create the Watch Dogs franchises. And it's like,
or was it director?
She's one of the only. She's like, who knows how much people actually have, how much the sort of top part of the hierarchy has on influence on how good a game is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there's
Also,
no
I
doubt that
watched-
Jade Raymond has been deeply involved in a whole bunch of really, really successful, amazing game franchises for a bunch of different companies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, also, have you ever? Can you define what a producer does
Producers
For a game company.
for a game
for
company?
anything? For anything, because if you actually go looking into it, what a producer does, what a person with the title of producer does in different companies, it's always different.
Extremely variable, yes.
Yeah, it's usually the title they give to somebody who's like, you're very highly placed and you have a lead role and you're helping to organize the project, but you're not a project manager.
Usually, often
You're higher than that.
Like in movies,
That's why I get that title a lot in Blur.
in the movie production world, a producer is the person who like puts it together. Like the producer gets the director, gets the screenwriter, gets all the people who are actually going to be making the film together, and the financing and everything.
Yeah,
They sort of they don't make the film, but they cause it to be made, I guess.
yeah. And the executive producer is somebody who needed a credit in order to agree to let this thing get made.
Or they put up money. Like
Well,
executive
or they put up a
it's-
lot of money,
it's-
yeah.
They're highly placed in the company, so they're kind of still doing similar things, or just doing less, or something. It really depends.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
And so she starts a new studio, and now she's gathering her ex coworkers to be her coworkers again.
this does remind me a little bit. There's another, I believe, actually Canadian developer, Desolé. What's his first name? Who worked on the Assassin's Creed games, as well, and then left Ubisoft because he was unhappy with Patrice Desolé.
Okay.
I believe he left Ubisoft because he was unhappy with the current,
Leadership?
with the stuff. Went to work at another company, which then got bought by Ubisoft, and he ended up working for Ubisoft again.
Sucks. Also, Haven's probably not going to be acqui-hired by Google because
That would be
Haven's
funny,
actually.
though. I've seen stupider things
Yeah.
happen.
Oh yeah, and I really know how to bring that up, and I'm like, I'm gonna conveniently ignore a very important thing. Haven is currently backed by Sony, so whatever it is they're developing is going to be for a Sony platform initially. I have a feeling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all expect Stadia to eventually finish having its very dramatic death throes and to quietly shuffle off, right?
Well, and that's the second individual sentence I wrote in this. Like the very end of the story was the other thing I wanted to mention, and I'm like, John Justice, who is the Stadia vice president and also head of product. That's what their job was. They left Google as well, and it's kind of like, okay, so they didn't just like, it's not like they got repositioned somewhere else in Google. It's like they left the company. They left Stadia and left the company entirely.
Mhm.
It's very unusual to see somebody leave a company coming from a product that's beleaguered, because when that kind of thing happens, everyone just kind of goes, oh, that thing's doomed. Doesn't matter who the VP is, everyone just always goes, oh, that thing's doomed.
Yeah.
So the only assumption we can make is that I guess Stadia is doomed, but didn't we already kind of know that for the last couple of years?
There's this thing where you kind of something, but then there's like when a company is not doing well, there's people who stick around because they believe in it, or they don't know that it's not doing super well, or they're trying to put in their time to find a different thing. But then once you start seeing things where it's like, we got rid of all of our game devs, and then you see other people who are like, maybe we're just going to leave before the sinking ship actually sinks.
Right.
We think it's actually sinking now. We can't bail out the water anymore. To me, it's just, this is the process. this is having lived through a store that went into a temporary receivership and then fully got closed down. This is the process.
It can be a bit of the sort of train of a business can take quite a while. If the front crashes, the caboose can take a while to notice that something is wrong.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah, and then you get people who can't leave right away for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I don't expect that to stick around too long.
Also, as a side note, much as I respect Jade Raymond, Haven is a terrible name for a games company. I made this note on the doc, not because it's a bad name for a games company, but because there is there's Haven Entertainment already exists. Haven Game Studio already is an Iranian game studio. Haven Entertainment is like a they put on like theatrical shows and things. Haven is just like a resort
Chain of resorts?
chain of resorts,
Which
like,
I think is a front for a cult, by the way, just from the sound of it.
it's just that namespace is kind of full is what I'm saying. is that maybe you should try another area if you want to avoid confusion.
I should have worked harder to work that into the story, actually, Paul. We should have done a back and forth. Being like, she's made this place called Haven Entertainment. Beach, that's a theatrical company. Haven Game Studios, that's an Iranian game studio. It's not her. Is it just called Haven? No, that's a series of resorts. And okay, it's called something with the word Haven in it. You can go look at her bio.
It means that it means that because like when I was doing the graphics for this story, I didn't know whether there was like a logo for the company yet.
Right?
And then that sent me down this rabbit hole of trying to actually. It's like I looked for Haven, and then it was like Haven Entertainment. That's probably it. And I was like, oh no, this is not it. Okay, Haven Games, and then it came up with this other place, and it's like, oh, this is probably it. Wait, no, this is established in like 2018. No, this is not in Iran. No, this is not it. Anyway.
Oh well.
Also, John Justice for the next Phoenix Wright game.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little on the nose as a name, but so is Apollo Justice. So I mean.
Oh, maybe brothers.
Oh yeah.
Long lost cousins.
Oh, like an uncle.
It writes
Ooh.
itself.
Uncle.
Like a sassy with a handsome uncle that
that
nobody's
game
seen
is
yet.
full of nothing but puns on names, even in the original.
An attractive 45-year-old older man who's like everyone starts just fan arting over. Draws them into some shit with Godot, maybe.
Also, a game called Haven just came out like this year.
Oh yeah, okay, great.
Can we get John Justice, older uncle of Apollo Justice, to be like really good friends with Godot? Because I feel like that would be annoying for Apollo.
Yeah.
But a lot of fun to watch. I've drinking 17 cups of coffee. Bartender.
Right. So, I mean, that brings us to the
long story.
Yeah, the theatrical
the shit show?
Performance for this. So, I don't know. Like, obviously, Graham did a pretty thorough take on it.
Yeah. And I did the the executive summary?
Yeah, the introduction. I would like to point out that the picture of the chicken with the caption and stuff, I did not understand. Beej linked and said, I want to use this photo, and I was like, okay, I will put that photo in. I don't know why, but I put it in. And then Beej explained it to me, and I was like, oh, okay, that's a joke. I feel like that's pretty obscure, but okay.
All right.
There's lots of people in the YouTube comments are backing him up. So I bow to your superior meme knowledge in this respect.
I want to be clear in that I never took a philosophy course in university because I felt that they were it was just going to be a waste of my time. And so I've never read any Plato. But man, the shit that I know about Plato's Cave and about Diogenes and about like all this other stuff that went on.
I feel like the relationship between like the plucked chicken posed all sexy like.
Yeah.
I'm hearing a lot of words, but not actual explanation, Beej, dearie.
So Diogenes, I think challenged Plato because Diogenes was a shit disturber, and he was like, he said to Plato, "It's like, well, if you can define whatever, it's like, well, why don't you define what a man is?" And so they had this argument, and eventually he was like, it's a man is a featherless biped. I think just to tell him to piss off, right? And Diogenes came back like the next day and took a dead plucked chicken and threw it in front of them and went, "Behold, a man!"
Okay.
And so, with everyone having this philosophical argument, what the fuck is that? Having a philosophical argument overing what indeed is a phone, because there is a chunk of the Epic v. Apple case where the lawyers had gotten to this argument where, and Paul pointed this out, we were having this discussion, where Apple is saying that, look, the iPhone it's a mobile phone. This is essentially the same, does the same things as what you would get from an Android phone or from any other kind of smartphone on the market. They do the same thing. It is not a lockdown market. Epic had to argue the iPhone is a wondrous, unique creature that in no other doesn't exist in any other way, shape, or form.
It's a fascinating idea because often in lawsuits like this, you get the companies basically acting in the opposite way as they would if they were talking to the public. And
Yeah,
so,
they don't market.
In this case, there's this idea that what the market is that the iPhone or iOS operates in is sort of central to the question of this like monopoly thing, right? Because of course, because if you look at, say, the phone or the iPhone, Apple clearly has a monopoly on apps that can be installed on the iPhone.
Right.
But if you take the iPhone in the realm of phones, Apple has, you can only install Apple apps on whatever 30% of phones. And if you take a iPhone as a computing device, then it's, you're now in the market of computers and everything else too. And the iPhone is a tiny section of that, because a certain amount of monopoly is okay, right? As long as you are not taking it, depending on what the size of the market is. And monopolies exist all over the place. Depending, if you choose to define your market extremely narrowly, then monopolies exist all over the place. But and so you have this interesting situation where Apple is trying to convince the court that they are not interesting and special, and that they are the same as basically anything else. And Epic is trying to convince the court that Apple is indeed interesting and special and amazing, which I like. It's sort of like this weird opposite day thing.
It's imposter syndrome at its best.
And what gets me about it, though, is I'm like, largely, Apple doesn't, like, in its marketing, never comes out and says that the iPhone is the only device that does whatever. Their marketing is always about, our thing is the best device that does whatever. You have seen other devices that do these things. We're not going to talk about them because this is the Coke versus Pepsi thing, right? Coke never talks about Pepsi. So it's like Apple comes out and says, here's this amazing device that does all these amazing things, and only in their keynotes they really say that we're the number one this, or we're the customer satisfaction that. But they don't say that we're the only place where you can have a rectangular device with an LCD screen that you can play games and do apps and stuff, a pocket computer, right? They don't ever say that they're the only place that can do that. And whereas Epic has to argue the other side where they're like, no, the whole existence of this in the first place means that it's its own thing that's locked down heavily. That's the thing we're arguing about. I'm like, they're trying to draw these very distinct lines to carve up this market. And when you mentioned computing devices, which then starts to build in stuff like, well, PCs, but it's like, but is a computing device, is a console, is a video game console also not a computing device? So where do you draw those lines?
And consoles is actually where Epic is trying to, or is where there's some stuff there, because because that's what, like, Epic has literally like brought the Xbox on I think it was Epic that brought Xbox to the stand to talk about the Xbox store, and about what they provide there, and so there's all these other people are sort of getting pulled into this like vortex of this lawsuit.
Yeah. So like what we have going on here is if everyone's been paying attention, Fortnite did a thing to instigate trying to go to court because they didn't want to have their app locked down to purchases within the App Store and Apple taking 30% or whatever it was they're doing. They were incredibly prepared, way more prepared than we ever really thought, which is fun. And
I mean, we thought they
in
were
that
suspiciously
process,
prepared, but yeah.
Yeah.
we're in that process of like, it's the beginning of the trial, and that means stuff has to be submitted into evidence, and people have to define things, and you have to define what we're gonna, and the internet's laughing at it because it's a public trial that you can listen into, so gaming media is all over it, and so we're getting into definitions of what is a game, which is a fight that the world has been having for way too long,
Yeah.
Well,
and it's annoying. And
it's
now
funny,
it's happening again.
because it's funny because it has to be like there are things that all companies use as like in their sort of marketing speak for things, but then when it comes to actual usage in court, everything has to be very precise. And so, and like Beej was talking about the thing with the like Xbox, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
is it the Xbox device, the Xbox the service, Xbox the whatever, and then
The division? Yeah.
and then us as a consumer, you're like, yes, it has been confusing all this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We all feel the same way.
You're getting things like we've submitted all these court documents that weren't supposed to go public, or people found out later that court documents were submitted that they had stuff in them that they didn't want to go public, which is why there's a lot of third parties being like, don't do that. Why are you doing that? And then we have stuff that's like gamers are going nuts over some of the idea of that's not fair. Some people are getting really silly about the idea of, oh, did you know that Microsoft expected that Breath of the Wild 2 and Metroid 4 and like all these other games were going to come out at the end of 2020? And it's like
almost as if to say, it's like, did they have some insider information?
Yeah, and chances are good. I don't doubt that there are devs from both teams who know each other, but chances are good they don't know when their games are coming out. But when you run a gaming thing where you're like, where am I going to put my games? You probably want to try to guess when the competition's going to put their games out. Like,
they were probably getting it off Reddit or something.
Yeah.
I mean, probably.
And the nature of like if we start looking at how computing devices, the level at which they like if you have to draw them out as a spectrum ultimately, because at this point a smart fridge or a smart washing or a dryer is a computing device.
The divisions between them are getting more and more blurry, of course. Yeah.
And so you start setting up like, where on the spectrum does the complexity and the functionality to the end user, how do you chop that up? And you get all the way up to a point where it's like, well, if you give somebody a PC built from like a beige box built from parts that's running Linux that has everything exposed to the goddamn world, it's like, this is a thing that's infinitely configurable in that way, right? And then you get to something that is like a smart washer, which can ping your phone to let you know that your washing is done. Like the kind of how you chop this down. And that idea of, as you said, Heather, it's like definitions are so important, because if they don't define this when the actual debate and litigation starts, then it's going to be that much harder to wade through the morass. And while I think that Epic, while I still feel this is a clear case of Epic went into a contract in bad faith, and so should be like setting themselves up to lose this case, you can't just have a judge make a summary judgment like that and say, boom, done, because people are like, there's going to be appeals, there's going to be all these other things going on. It's like, no, you have to try the case when you get it into a court so you can argue everything and then say, okay, good, now let's concentrate on what the nut of this thing actually is.
I mean, when reading people's responses to, because I don't care who wins, but there's people who are like, oh, we signed with Epic because Epic is going for the little guy, and other people are like, Apple is the better whatever, and there's that weird fight, which, to be honest, Epic wanted you to do, and we have fucking proof of that.
Yes!
So maybe don't, but if you look at it, it's it's just like that one piece of paper we put up where it was like they tried to say what's our best case scenario, our medium, and our worst, and the minus 53% doesn't mean that they don't make money. If you look at the rest of that sentence, they're still making money. They're just making less than projected
Right.
if in the worst case scenario. And I've seen people who are like, oh, well, the fact that they're still willing to do it, even though they might lose 50% or more, means that this is not about money. And I'm like, no, that's not about short-term money. That's
Yeah,
a different thing.
No.
And who knows what it's really about. And yes, they're going to project that they're about the little guy, because personally, if I was going to go in a fight and try to get people to be on my side, I'd want to be the underdog too.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
And Croco King in chat makes a great point. They say if they, Epic, wants a legal decision on this. I'm going to say Epic in this case, where you say they, Croco King. And if I'm misrepresenting you, please be clear. But if Epic wants a legal decision on the idea of how much an app store should charge, or whether you should be able to open up a device to have multiple app stores, or to have a concentrated game stores, or whatever, if Epic wants a legal decision on this, Epic kind of had to do it in this way, or Epic would not have standing to bring the case in the first place.
Right. But and it's like, yeah, that's true. But it sort of is, it makes it kind of disingenuous for them to take this kind of like, what?
Yeah, it's true. It's like it, and that's, I think, the pisser as well. It's like, surely there must have been another way for them to do this, and maybe there was, but I'm not gonna start getting into the weeds of what they could have possibly done.
If you look at other stuff, like in the worst case scenario, there's actually a thing that says that they wouldn't be able to up the price of V-Bucks.
Yeah.
And that's I mean, as a business, that is not good for them, but it's not particularly bad for the consumer. Is it?
And it's also important to note that regardless of the sort of public opinion, this is not going to be decided on ethics, right? This is a contract litigation, right?
Yeah.
Which is why all these definitions are so important, because that's what this is all. It's not about like, who is morally correct, if one could even determine that. It's about, these nitty gritty weird contract details and what the definition of a bunch of different words is. So, yeah.
Yeah. I am enjoying when we originally covered that Epic and Apple were doing their little weird money fight before the trial had started. I never wanted to talk about their case ever again, because I frankly didn't care. It was just people being like, oh, Epic is a good guy, or Apple's a good guy, or whatever, or I don't care and thing. But now that it's like a public open thing, and there's just like the weirdest stuff coming out about like Fortnite wanting Samus, or Sony really hating crossplay like we always have known,
or
but
Paradox not wanting to be mentioned in this lawsuit whatsoever, and now they're a part
and
of
I'm
it.
like, yeah, okay. These are the parts I want to hear. The story about the judge saying that she that they had a court case where people submitted 30 bottles of wine, but no one came to pick them up afterwards, so the court drank them. Is like hilarious. And I'm like, yeah, this is what I want to hear. I don't care about the
I mean, it's in that area where it's always fun when the sort of outside world, where the video game drama or video game stuff kind of infringes onto the outside world, and then people, like the judge or various people who are not sort of in the know about video game stuff come into it at the first time, and they're like, what's why? So the Xbox One S is the older one, and the Xbox Series X is the new one.
Yeah.
Like, I want the judge to just be like, wait, stop everything. Which is the new iPad? Is it the iPad that's called the new iPad? Or is it just the regular, or is it just the iPad?
Yeah. They put up a whole bunch of timeline shit. It's going to be great.
Mm-hmm. Plus, there's just like all these industry things that you kind of hear things about because people are talking about them. There's rumors and there's things, but there's no way to actually confirm any of it. And for paperwork to be hitting the file and then suddenly being taken down is like, it's too late. It hit the internet. Every single person has a copy of that somewhere.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, it's so good.
And yeah, and then the final or the coming up, we've got talking about the BioWare Legendary Edition cover customizer, which and I mean I like he's just the take in the story is that yes, you can't have them all be having sex on the cover, so
Yeah.
revolt.
What a hell of an oversight that was.
But what I do like about this is that, because of course this touches on one of the controversies that was sort of a very minor controversy when a Mass Effect originally came out, was the like whether to have male or female Shepard on the cover, right?
Right.
And I think they ended up, it was like you could flip it over and it was like in the it was male Shepard on the front, and then you could flip it over and it was female on the other side.
Oh yeah, the double-sided cover thing. Yeah.
But there people were grumbling that it was that like male Shepard was the one that's like in the box.
The default.
The default, right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of like this dude that just be like, screw it, have whoever you want on the front.
Put your own cover together.
You can't get mad at us now. Apparently, a bunch of the other stuff that was previously available as part of like pre-order bonuses for the original Mass Effect trilogy, is now also being released as part of this Mass Effect Legendary Edition.
Huh.
So stuff like digital art books and soundtracks and stuff. So that's pretty cool too.
Neat.
And I was throwing shade at the people who lost their goddamn minds over the Mass Effect 3 ending. And I never played Mass Effect, so this is one of these things where I don't care.
I'm pretty sure that might have been even in the ENN days, but I'm pretty sure we got some snark in about that.
Yeah, and to my mind, it's like I don't think that those people should ever live down their bad behavior, because I don't think anybody here at the table thinks that it's right to harass developers because you don't like the way that something went. And that doesn't mean that I don't think that people shouldn't be able to state dissatisfaction with something and to be like, we don't like that you did this and we are upset by it and we're not going to buy another one of your games, or we're going to return this game or do it. I'm like, yeah, go ahead and do that kind of thing. But there are limits as to I think how dissatisfaction should be, stated.
I tweeted about this, but I once, when we lived up in the Langford area, and I was at a bus stop waiting to go home, there was a guy, probably like 19, bragging to a girl who I think he quite liked, about how he was so mad about this item in Candy Crush that they had added, and it was a terrible item, that he had sent death threats to the developers over it, and that and he was clearly very proud of the things that he was saying, and I was just like, wow. Good for you, giving her the red flags to run away, because I've been in those situations, and it's just like, he really liked Candy Crush, which is fine. She's like there's nothing wrong with that.
I like bad boys.
My word. I like internet tough guys.
She looked like she wanted to run, but we're all waiting for the bus. It's not like you can go anywhere.
Yeah. What, weird flex, but okay, my dude.
Yeah. If it hadn't been the middle of the night and there maybe been more people around, I might have been like, are you...
It's like those are supposed... What? It's like... I mean, to be honest, doing that and then bragging about it, like, I respect that more than people doing it anonymously, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
but
it's
just weird.
People don't just say these things on the internet and forget about it. Some people do, but there are people who really think they're legitimately doing a good thing, and maybe it's because they're really young and they don't get it, or maybe it's just that they've seen the culture of that and they've gone for it, and that needs to be denounced.
Like, that's the thing you have to do, and it's like, no, it isn't.
Yeah,
no, also definitely run away from anyone who says
there's an interesting reaction thing that's obviously not just for video games, but for just internet culture in general. I mean, it's and Twitter and that kind of stuff emphasizes it, social media stuff, but this idea where death threats or harassment of that kind is not actually considered to be that strong a opinion,
Yeah.
right? Somebody like somebody sending death threats might not even care that much, but that's just how they express their somewhat dissatisfied feeling is by sending a death threat. Like for some reason they don't consider it to be that strong a whatever thing to do.
They don't think
Yeah.
it's
Which is somehow the impact of what they're doing versus like how they actually feel is disconnected.
Yeah, which is weird. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yep.
it's that sort
Moving
of
on.
you don't really realize that the person on the other end of the computer is a real person thing.
True. Yeah.
The Golden Geeks, I think it's called, which is the Board Game Geek Awards. Going into games or stories that were not in the episode now, by the way. But so the Golden Geeks are the awards for Board Game Geek, which is basically the biggest online board game enthusiast group. So the awards are actually fairly prestigious, but they've added a new category this year for Zoomable game, which I'm a little disappointed that's what that Zoom has somehow stolen the like remote connection word. But anyway,
that makes more sense than what I was thinking.
I
I thought maybe the camera being able to zoom in as opposed to the service, because I avoid Zoom if I can help it.
You can't say it's not streamable because these might not be streams; it might be private meetings, right? You can't do like Skypeable because people think of Skype as being like a VoIP thing and not as a video talking. And
you want one word, so you don't want it to be like the
or just like remote
distanced, whatever.
Remote play game would have been really good, but it's like, no, we're going to use Zoomable because Zoom somehow all the security breaches and all the other shit they were doing that's awful and terrible with personal information. That's the company you want to promote when it comes to video conferencing. Call them best WebExables.
Anyway. So the game that won this year is called Forgotten Waters, and it seems really neat. I actually posted a thing in our internal Slack, being like, "Hey, maybe we should look at this game to play," because it looks pretty cool to me. And it's a little bit like the Forgotten Waters game. It looks a little bit like Mansions of Madness in the sense that it's like a board game piece with a companion app. But the companion app is a web app, which is nice. And it's the idea. It's sort of, and it's the game. The way it's a cooperative pirate game, like your pirate adventures. Okay. And apparently, what makes it really good for this sort of remote thing is it's cooperative, but each of the players sort of has independent jobs, so they can have like their little character sheet and do their work without having to like refer to the central board all the time. And also the company behind Forgotten Waters, which is Plaid Hat Games, has also made, in addition to the like the app that goes along with it that adds, does the sort of randomness factor like Mansions of Madness has. They also have made like a separate app specifically for remote playing, to basically as sort of an online way to keep track of all your stats and that kind of stuff, which is that's one of those great things that like fans have made for games like Betrayal, The House on the Hill, or Gloomhaven, or things like that. Like there are fan-made games or fan-made apps that do that, but this is actually made by the company itself and sort of promoted with them. So that's really neat, and they've got like instructions for how to play it, suggestions for how to play it remotely. So you have like one person with the game, and then everybody else can connect up and stuff. So it seems really neat. I have no idea. I mean, the fact that it won this thing would indicate that it's a good game. I have never seen it actually being played, but it seems like it could be super fun. Returnal, which is
Returnal.
a new game for PS5. It's been getting a lot of buzz lately.
Yeah, I hear it's got a lot of bugs too.
That's what the buzzing is. Also, it's supposed to be, well, I mean it's got the cliche of like being compared to Dark Souls and stuff. In terms of punishing difficulty. But anyway, one of the interesting things about it is it has there's a bunch of like cheat codes, dev codes that can be used in it to change stuff around and mess with stuff. But in order to do them, you have to type them in, and so you have to actually plug a external keyboard into your PS5. And so the only way you can get to access the cheat stuff is by plugging a keyboard into your PS5.
Now I have a question about this.
Question from the class. Yes, Peach.
Thank you. The headline that Ars Technica has in our document that we're following is plug in a PS5 keyboard to access Returnal's hidden debug mode codes. Is there such a thing as an official Sony PS5 keyboard?
No.
No,
I believe it is just a USB keyboard.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Just wanted to be sure because I was like, I wonder if
the tweets I've read about Returnal, because like a lot of people seem to be having a lot of fun with the game, is that there have been people who've gotten stuck in rooms where they can't leave even though they're supposed to be able to leave the room. Or and it seems to be some people say it's due to changing your cosmetics.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Or something. I'm sure they'll fix that.
And the patch that just came out stopped this from working. So it's a non-story.
Oh well.
It was fun. I like that. I like that idea.
Yeah.
That I feel like having it only accessible through a keyboard you have to plug in is like obscure enough that nobody is going to encounter that without deliberately doing it.
It feels a little like Quake when you could actually type in console and have the console drop down, and you could like do editing stuff there. And it's like, yeah, more video game consoles should have a console.
You want some custom PS5 sneakers, bro?
No, not really.
Do they look like the PS5 tower? Because
they're like platforms.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun.
See, like as somebody who isn't, I'm not big into sneakers. These kind of stories come up every once in a while because there'll be like tie-ins with video games and stuff, and I'm almost always disappointed because the problem with sneakers is there's a very strong limit to how much you can do to a sneaker while making it still a good sneaker, right?
Yeah.
Like it's basically just changed the colors, and so they put out this. There's a sneaker that is like white and blue and black and kind of evokes the color scheme. That
PlayStation logo on it.
If you make PlayStation 5 sneakers, I want to see somebody with PlayStation 5s on their feet.
Yeah.
I mean,
running around.
Yes, definitely. But like sneakers, whenever they make sneakers like this, where they're like incredibly white with like really cool accented colors, I'm like, those look really nice. They are definitely not going to look like that for more than 5 minutes if I actually wear them, and if they're collectible, I don't care because I don't collect shoes. But I guess if other people collect shoes, good for you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure these are in the like collectable thing.
I'm definitely on the Bernie Sanders side of sneaker culture.
Yeah,
where I
but
don't understand what's going on.
If I want to get fancy shoes, like I saw on Twitter, someone had made these like platform shoes where they'd put a bunch of dice inside this plastic thing, and I'm like, I want shoes like that. I want like the shoes that have the Game Boy etched into the side and look really neat and weird.
Yeah,
that is one area. Yeah, I feel like the big platform heels has a lot more flexibility. Like there's a lot more space to work with.
So much stuff you could do.
Whereas sneakers, the amount of actual like stuff that you can do differently without wrecking them as shoes is quite limited.
But I could put a whole terrarium in my shoes with some
Yeah.
platformers.
Little goldfish.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway. Get some tadpoles in there and they turn into frogs. You're like, fuck, what do I do now? I gotta let the frogs out of my shoes.
Yeah. You gotta get new
They'll make
shoes.
little
Yeah.
escape hatch for the frogs to get out.
And so they can get out and then come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little home for them.
This
I
story
would definitely
is
tried that as a kid.
this is like less important news and more just, I don't know. I was kind of bummed out by this.
Okay.
So Toys for Bob is a game development company run
Yeah.
and it's
What did they last work on?
Crash Bandicoot.
yeah,
4?
the Crash
All right.
Bandicoot. No, most notable for one, the Spyro, not the original Spyro games, but the
trilogy or the
thing with the little toys,
Oh, Skylanders.
Skylanders. They
Ah.
they
so
invented the
bright
Skylander
colored
franchise.
things.
Okay.
They
cool.
invented
Bright
the
colored
Skylanders
kids
franchise.
game things.
Thus, Toys for Bob. Okay,
Yes.
I understand.
They were
Neat.
Toys for Bob before that, but
Oh, okay.
But the other
Right.
and the other thing they did is I don't know, I'm not entirely, I don't think they were actually, they might not have been called Toys for Bob at the time, but the two developers, the head developers from Toys Bob are the guys behind the Star Control and Star Control 2 games, which
No shit. Wow.
are among mine and many people's best games of all time.
Very beloved. Yes.
Very beloved.
Well, what are they doing now? What's exciting? What are they up to?
Well, now they're going to be supporting development for Call of Duty Warzone Season 3.
Call of
Great.
Duty's one of those like
Some of the
gray,
most
brown, green,
some of the most
dark
creative
games,
developers like around.
Yeah.
Are they gonna make Call of Duty brighter?
Oh,
'Cause
that'd be funny.
maybe in the colors of Crash, orange.
And it's
bright
not like
orange.
even they're going to be one. There's like 5 developers working on Call of Duty because it's a ridiculously huge game.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
wouldn't doubt that
People
at all.
are just making content and stuff. So it's basically, I mean, it reminds me a little bit of how like Mainframe Entertainment out of Vancouver, the people who made Reboot, now make like My Little Pony, like and like Barbie, like weird knockoff.
Right, because they know the
CGI
they know the CGI stuff, and that stuff has a lot of it.
And there's,
And
I mean,
it's just like,
let's be fair. Those contracts are lucrative. Like,
it's true. And
Sure.
and like I wasn't a fan of Skylanders, but I was like, I get what Toys for Bob is doing, because Skylanders at the time and for a long time was like ridiculously popular and very successful. But you know, all things come to an end, I guess. And
Yeah.
Crash Bandicoot 4 apparently did not live up to expectations. One might argue that this,
Really?
you know, these situations when expectations are not.
I thought it did. I thought everyone I've ever heard talk about it seems like they liked it quite a bit.
That
I
always
guess maybe
happens
it just
with
didn't
these-
sell well.
I mean, that happens a lot with these companies. I remember like back in the day, there was this thing from Square Enix that they put out an earnings warning that they were like that they didn't do that well in the previous year, and that was the year that they put out like the Tomb Raider reboot, like Sleeping Dogs, and like a whole bunch of games that were not only very successful but like critically
acclaimed.
But it's like, it's basically, you know, some of these development companies, it's like when your development system works under the idea that every game has to be like the best-selling game of all time, or else we're not going to make money on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, if you can't make money on a game that has sold 10 million copies, then you are clearly doing something wrong with your development process.
There's definitely been stories where it's like, oh, this game sold over 1 million copies, and then like you see another story a week later where it's like, this game didn't make enough money, we're not doing anymore, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay. I don't know how numbers work anymore.
It kind of leads into a larger discussion of the top heavy nature of the video game industry that's starting to coalesce around certain tentpole games. And that at some point, you're going to have devs who start to trickle out of that, and hopefully are able to pick it up again and be like, I'm going to make something fun and unique and wonderful, and then they make something fun and unique and wonderful, and everyone just kind of is like blown away by how wonderful this thing is you made, and then you make another game and you get successful again, and then you get bought up by a master company and you get installed into doing more Call of Duty work, and you're like, how the fuck did I get here again? Like, that's, that kind of...
I mean, that can happen in gaming,
It's the circle of shit, like...
Yeah.
I start to feel like more indie companies are going to be the ones that, if they can become smaller, sustainable companies and make really enjoyable experiences, that they'll be the ones we'll be looking to for the
I think that's what's going to make gaming more sustainable overall in the end. Yeah.
It's just a sheer glut of stuff that maybe not 1 million people love, but 300,000 people love, and that's enough.
Well, because I see it as the superhero problem. If you have your superhero save the town, and then in its next installment it has to save the country or the world and then the universe, and then there's a point where it's like you've put in this expectation that this thing will always be bigger and better every single time, but when doing that it's going to be more expensive and maybe shouldn't be, and it's really hard to cut back down.
Though it has meant that after Infinity War and Endgame, I have been enjoying the Marvel properties that have come after that, because they are smaller stories and they're very engaging to me now all of a sudden. So.
I like that Ant-Man is small in story and scope.
Yeah.
And also...
And body height.
This story is mainly for... I mean, I guess it's...
Oh, it sure shit ain't for me.
I was going to say, this is. I think the story is mostly for Adam, because he was super big. But anyway, Made in Abyss, the anime, is going to be coming to Switch as a 3D action RPG. It actually, like, the screenshots and stuff from the game look super neat. I've only seen like a little bit of Made in Abyss, but it's a bit of a bummer as an anime. Just to let you know, from like I said, the little bit I've seen and from what I've heard, it is great, but just accept that it is a bit of a bummer. So who knows how that will
so despite
how that will
controversies
make its way into the video game. It would be interesting.
Despite the fact of controversies and some things about Made in Abyss that are not good, the sentiment I get of that, because we watched that series and Beej refuses to ever watch anything ever about, which is fair.
You're just not watching anime anymore?
There's something about something that looks very cute and constantly has hope, but is destined for despair, that is more despairing than just actual despair.
Now,
and that is the kind of...
But I feel like a lot of the situations in Made in Abyss could easily translate themselves into a video game quite well.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Especially to let's go
Adam
into the...
Enjoy it.
I mean, it's almost like a roguelike atmosphere of let's go into the abyss and see what we find, right?
Yeah. Oh no, terrors! So
it's always terrors.
Oh no, nightmares!
And the deeper it gets worse. It's very roguelike.
And when you try to leave, if you don't do it slowly, you get basically the body horror equivalent of nitrogen narcosis. Anyway, this 3D action RPG is it's going to be 18 plus. We know that. We know it's going to be an original story that is as I understand, is at least blessed by the original author. That they're saying, no, I'm cool with this, because I don't think they finished the manga yet. And it's coming to the Switch, but it's probably just going to be super intense, and it's going to hurt bad to play it. So that's your jam.
I told Adam that I think it counts as a horror game because of its themes. So I'm trying to push them to play it on Let's Snope.
They should totally play it on Let's Snope when it comes out.
But I don't know if it's 18 plus. I'm not sure about Twitch's guidelines.
There is
So,
that, yeah. Depending on the content that's in the game, there might be a thing where.
But I do think that is because I mean we're assuming 18 plus, but it might not be.
Yeah.
It could be 16. Depending on
the Japanese, according to the Nintendo Life article, they said that the Japanese rating that they're already giving it is meant to be 18 plus.
Oh well, then it's definitely going to be 18 plus over here.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do about changing that.
But yeah, I don't know. I just like watching Adam weeb out.
Yeah,
So,
he does it so rarely.
If he's excited about an anime related thing and that's a possibility to watch him stream, I'd be all over that myself. Maybe just with the audio, so I don't have to watch some of the visuals. There's some body horror stuff made in Abyss that made me uncomfortable.
I'm sure that a lot of the whatever's involved in gameplay is going to be just gameplay, and I'm sure that whatever's in terms of like story beats are going to be the things that are going to make it the worst.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah,
powerful
series.
Yeah,
I got to be clear, it's a powerful series.
Okay, now we all know, as much as we love the Switch, it is a little underpowered in comparison to the current
comparatively, sure,
the current generation of consoles of the Xbox and PlayStation. That hasn't had any problems with that. You know, it's been very successful, but objectively, it is a little underpowered, and that comes into play when it gets ports from other things.
Yeah, that can have an effect. Yes, agreed.
And so, Apex Legends is a game that so it's a game. It's on PC as well as various consoles, including Switch. It's currently on Switch, and people very much enjoy it and having fun playing it as long as you turn off Game Pass multi, so that. Basically, console people don't like playing with PC people because PC people cheat. Look,
yeah,
that's just how it is.
Easier to cheat.
We don't have to get into the logistics.
We don't have to get into that. But yeah, sure.
But the Switch version does not look as good as the other consoles. It's lower res. The textures are lower resolution. Frame rate isn't as good, blah, blah, blah. Which isn't a problem necessarily, especially if you're playing against other people on Switch. You're all kind of on the same field. There is a new update going to be coming out for Apex Legends called Apex Legends Legacy. And it's gotten a bit of... there's been a bit of concern about it because they brought out the trailer for consoles and PC. The other Xbox and PlayStation and PC came out a couple weeks ago, and they're like in 4K, and they're super cool. And it's like, well, all this crazy stuff going on. And then the trailer for Switch came out just last week, and it's the exact same trailer, but just 1080. Not available in 4K, but they just took the 4K trailer, made it only 1080, and put like the Switch thing on it. When the graphics in it are clearly not the graphics that the Switch uses.
Right. This has happened sometimes where when a Switch commercial comes out for a portive game, they're using PC footage or different consoles footage.
Yeah.
But they're saying this game's available, and then it's like, but what does it actually look like when it plays on the thing that I want to buy it for?
Yeah. And the thing is at the time when you see a trailer go up, like you might be like, if you see the trailer when it goes up initially, you might be like, oh, okay, I know it's not going to look like that. So hey, you got away with that. You're like, I know it's not going to look like that. I'm gonna watch some trailers later or whatever and see what it's going to look like later. But if somebody comes along later, doesn't know about all this, and goes looking for a trailer of, okay, I want to see what like Apex Legends Legacy looks like on the Switch, and they pull up a trailer and it's from like a year ago, and they watch it and they're like, wow, it looks actually really good on the Switch, and they play it. They're like, hey, what the hell, right? Because you can't, because it was misrepresented in the first place, and there's no note being like, note, this is footage from the PC version. Should be like blinking on the
There-
fucking screen.
Apparently,
you know, like,
there's like a 4-second, very small little thing.
Yeah, there's usually a small text print thing that if you're not looking for, you might not see, or it'll say footage is not representative of
actual
thing,
gameplay.
or
Yeah.
like you'll see lots of that in and stuff. But like,
Warning: footage
I've-
totally pulled out of our ass.
I know when Sony released the Persona 3 and 5 dancing games,
Right.
they came out for the PlayStation 4 and the Vita, and the streaming trying to look up if they had any streaming restrictions on those. They did not want people streaming the Vita version, and I was just like, how bad is the Vita version if you really want people to only show off the PS4 version? Like
Oh, they actually
it's sure
had
it's
different,
probably
different requirements depending on which version you were looking at.
Woof.
they didn't want you stream. They didn't want anyone showing videos of the Vita version at all, and that's always a red flag to me. I get that you want to show off the best version possible,
Yeah.
and they'll do that with anything that they show off now is probably going to be PS5 game footage or 4K or whatever, which is not necessarily the experience you'll have on a slightly older system.
Right.
But you kind of know that when you're on a slightly older system. But when it's like, oh yes, no, nobody should stream the thing on this other thing. We don't want people to think that the other game looks like that.
Can I take us briefly back in time for a minute?
Okay.
Okay, so there. Does anyone? I hope people remember the game Double Dragon.
How old are we going?
Yeah, which
We're
Double
talking-
Dragon?
The original?
Talking the 80s, the original Double
The
Dragon.
original Double Dragon.
If
All
you
right.
remember Double Dragon from the arcade, big sprites walking around punching stuff. 3 buttons. You know, you had punch and kick and jump. I think were the 3 buttons you had because you're like moving the guy around in the 3D kind of thing. Final Fight style.
Okay. So you're talking arcade version.
Right.
All right. Good.
So then, of course, this came out for all sorts of home computers and consoles.
Mm.
the Atari,
Well, it didn't come out
80s?
for I'm not talking like the Atari 2600. I'm
It
talking
was out
like
it came out for Nintendo and stuff.
it did came out for Nintendo.
Okay.
Of course, it doesn't look the same as the arcade. It came out for the Amiga. It came out for, I believe, the Atari ST. It came out for the Commodore 64, and I think the Commodore 128. And at least for the ones that came out on the ones that weren't like Nintendo, right? The ones that came out on computer. When you would go to the store to buy, because I did this, you go to the store to buy Double Dragon. I saw it at like Kmart, and I picked it up, and you turn around the box, and on the box, this is what used to happen, is on the box it had a screenshot of the Commodore 64 version, a screenshot of like the Atari ST version, a big ass screenshot of what the Amiga one looked like, and like other screenshots of what it looked like on all the other systems.
The box for a very specific system you were buying had different screenshots from different systems.
Because
on it?
they were all the same box they used the same box for everything. Because if you had a Commodore 64, that was what a Commodore 64 was. It was like, that's what it is. It's a C64 and that's it.
Okay.
If you had system requirements or for whatever, there'd be a sticker on the box that would say that this is the system requirements for that. You're going to need like a disk drive or whatever. And there'd be a band sticker around the edge of the box usually that says like Commodore 64 version or Amiga version or
So
whatever
they
would
didn't
be
have
around.
a different box for each version.
They just
Oh.
printed the one box and they published it on multiple platforms.
Interesting.
To be honest,
okay.
I respect that they actually did that though. Like I thought you were going to say that they just had the Amiga version on the back and said
No,
Fuck
no. But that idea that games were being published back then for multiple systems, and that they were like, well, we're going to represent what they look like in all the systems. Of course, the Amiga one looked the best, so we're going to put
That's
that
why
one
it
on the
has the
thing
bigger
instead.
image, yeah.
And of course, there's lots of like drawn art on the box and stuff too to get you excited. And yeah, there's all just that kind of thing, and it's like, I want that to be the experience we have, where companies are way more honest about it. Looks different in all the systems. This is what it's going to look like, you know?
I mean, sometimes it's even a different game, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like FIFA.
I remember.
Or
I always remember.
Ghostbusters.
For the original Space Quest 3, I had the box for it, and there was a big sticker on it that says "Works with all Macintosh computers," and then it says like 2CI, Classic, Plus.
Right.
That's it. Those are all the Macintosh computers.
Yeah.
But it works with them.
Yep.
Anyway, I think that is. I think that is all the news stories.
Yeah.
There's a whole the because of the Apple Epic thing. the news story, the document I have for where I'm loading in all the stories. There's like all these different stories, blah, 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 and there's just like a page of just like these are all sort of vague, like interconnected in
Oh,
weird ways.
yeah.
Stories about the
Well,
epic
'cause-
lawsuit, like
because you're getting
there's so many different angles on it. It's so
you're
weird.
getting people who are doing the just like the overviews. You're getting people who are doing the here's the snippets of some stuff we found out. Like Nintendo did its financial meeting, whatever. And so a lot of sites that I've seen that cover that have like one post, but then there's like one site that I follow that has done an individual thing for each part of the thing to be like, oh, this is how much they did in this year, and this is like, did you see the Switch is selling really well according to this graph? And I'm like, okay, cool. You couldn't do this in one post?
No.
Like in terms of announcements, this is way better than E3. Like
Yeah.
Oh, they have a graph that shows you all of their systems going up and like how well they've sold in each quarter, and then like when the decline has hit, and the Switch has just got like this bar graph moment where that goes straight up.
Oh, it just
Yeah, it's really good.
Nice.
I love graphs.
I think it's probably important to point out as well for anyone who's interested is that we're not going to have like a concerted effort that every episode of CheckPoint is going to have Epic v Apple coverage until the lawsuit is concluded. You can probably expect that there might be one that comes up every so often, but
as with the Stadia thing, if new particularly interesting stuff happens, we'll certainly talk about it. I would suspect that we're not going to be doing another 10-minute long whatever rundown of it, but although I think we've been kicking around the idea that maybe when this thing is all when it's all resolved, maybe we'll have some sort of like big roundup of the whole thing.
Yeah, a proper review.
Yeah, I could see that. Or like if something really amazing happens next week, I could see us talking about that one specific thing, but not the overall.
I feel like it's going to be a little bit like there's the Nintendo Giga Leak, and that like for the past like year, every once in a while they'll be just like, oh hey, there's a new piece of Nintendo news from the Giga Leak.
Yep.
Yeah, and maybe it's interesting enough,
and we'll probably have news from the leaked papers that were made public accidentally. Not really. I mean, it's hard to say accidentally when it's like we put all this stuff up online. It's like, I guess that was an accident, but
yeah.
I like they put it up, took it down, and then put it back up, but like redacted.
Yeah. Well, and also we're in May right now, so we're hitting that point where there's like, as we ramp up over to E3, where some devs start releasing information about their games, and some interesting stuff happens because people are trying to get stuff out before the big thing, but not too much stuff because the big gamer news event will hit, and then we'll have E3 fun for like a week.
All right, let's see what is coming up. Because what is coming up is the Friday Night Paper Fight, where we're going to be playing Strixhaven Boxmander. Yeah, that's right. What is Boxmander, you might ask? It is Commander, but the decks have been made by cracking open entire booster boxes of Strixhaven. And if you want to watch that was broadcast yesterday. So you can check it out on our Twitch channel. And
it was from...
that was the Lure MTG stream that where they cracked open those boxes.
Which means it'll be available on the Lure MTG YouTube channel or on the Loading Ready Run streams?
No, the Lure MTG. All the Magic stuff goes on the Lure MTG YouTube channel.
Okay.
And Lure MTG, typically, as long as nothing bad happens, goes up on Saturday, and then Friday Night Paper Fight goes up on Sunday.
Cool. All right.
So that's going to be tonight in about a little over an hour. So that'll be super cool. They should have some pretty fancy decks. And then on Saturday evening, Beach is continuing with Betrayal at Krondor.
I had this last night. I said to Heather as I was closing everything down and kind of like we're done doing that. I was like, I actually just want to keep playing until
Good.
2 a.m.
That's a good sign.
I just want to sit down and because we're in the middle. I saved in the middle of a mine, and I'm just like I just want to. I want to finish the mine, and then I want to walk around some more, and I just want to do things, and I just want to get stuff done.
Yeah,
and
so he's having fun. That's good.
So yeah, it's the pull. I didn't think the pull would be there, but the pull is there, and it wants me back. And I'm like, oh, I'm so happy.
Now, are you at the point where everyone is like, man, Krondor is a nice place with all these trustworthy people. It's so nice that we're here, and nobody is betraying anybody.
Paul, let me tell you.
Oh my god, who could have known this would happen?
We haven't even made it to Krondor yet.
Oh no.
Krondor is the name of a city. It's the capital city of Midkemia,
So you're
of the kingdom anyway.
So that means you're
Midkemia.
safe. As long as before you get to Krondor, you know you can trust everyone.
Well, we know that there's going to be a betrayal. Like in game, we know that something is happening, and we don't know what's going to happen, but someone's going to end up screwed as a result of it. And we're trying to get to Krondor to tell them it's like, hey, be careful of this thing that's about to happen. It's probably going to screw us over.
It's not.
And I'm busy duping pick locks and selling them for 120 sovereigns, and I'm looting my ass off in the fucking tavern so I can make 60 sovereigns.
Maybe the betrayal is you hacking. Maybe
Yeah.
that's the betrayal.
Yeah.
I'm killing men made of stone.
The question isn't, is there a betrayal? When will there be a betrayal? It's who will be the betrayer.
Yeah.
I just like the idea of like a party.
Point.
A party, you're like walking towards Krondor, and as you get closer, everyone starts eyeing each other more and more. You're like,
yeah.
There's not going to be a betrayal here. Let's be real. It's you're basically coming to the last part of Betrayal at the House of the Hill, right? It's like
yeah. I think I spent probably aggregate about 15, maybe 20 minutes last night in aggregate haggling with store owners, which is basically just clicking the button that says haggle until they say, if you're not going to accept my price, get the hell out of my shop, and they make the thing unavailable. And then then you grab something else and you drag that into haggle over and over and over again until they finally say, look, I gave you a discount, and if you're not going to take it, get the hell out of here, marked unavailable. And then you just keep doing it over and over again until they finally give up. And then you leave the shop because everything's unavailable, and your haggling ability goes up, and you go back inside the shop and you can do it all over again. And that's what we did a lot of last night. It was great.
Short-term memory for
the
that.
Same guy, the same store owner for 20 minutes.
Oh,
at a certain point, the guy is just like, just take the stuff, man. I have things to do.
It's hilarious because everyone was like, hey, how do they not recognize you? I'm like, have you seen what we look like? Those are clearly disguises we're wearing. Those aren't real people.
Have you ever been inside? Of course you haven't. I worked at Walmart, and I've definitely seen the people who come in to try to haggle at Walmart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right. More of this tomorrow on Saturday.
All right.
Yeah.
And then on Sunday, continuing on Inside My Radio on Rhythm Cafe.
Yeah, apparently I liked the game enough the first time that I'm actually going to continue as opposed to my initial plan of not.
That's good. I like that you're like, apparently this is what's happening.
It's got a story. I get to play different square cube things inside the radio. We're going to fight a spider tomorrow, or Sunday rather. We left off just before a boss fight with a spider, and I don't remember how any of the controls work, so it's gonna be great.
Oh no!
I'm concerned that there's a spider inside your radio.
Yeah, a very large one.
Another thing that there are probably spiders in is Hearthstone.
Treasured indie game.
Yes. Ben Wheeler is going to be playing Hearthstone. And then on Monday, it's the Can't Draw Horses Club, where Corey and a rotating guest.
Well, I don't know who it is this week. Yeah.
The guests themselves won't necessarily be rotating, but it's.
Oh, I mean, I could do that next time I come on. I can rotate in the chair. It's Az. It's gonna be Az on Monday.
All right.
Because I think I'm on the one after.
Oh no!
Oh right.
So
it turns
out that
happening.
Everyone wasn't quite as ready to jump into the next Dice Friends game as they thought they'd be. So guess what happens? That's right. Adam and Beej and myself are going back into the fairy mound of Dragonkind. And maybe we'll actually get somewhere in it this time.
This is unprecedented. I mean, first you go back to a book that you've done before, and this time you're actually continuing it, and you might finish it even as a possibility that exists.
Oh, I don't know if we'll finish it, but I'm sure
hopes and dreams. Don't shatter them beforehand. Shatter them after.
Half the book is available now. We are what I'm assuming is the halfway point through the book. Despite all the time we spent fucking around, it's like I think we're halfway through the book right now. And we have to figure out how to finish it. And well, when I say we, Adam has to figure out how to finish it, and we just have to annoy him into doing it.
Yeah.
If you've missed part 1, you can go find that over at youtube.com/loadingreadyrun or in your podcast feeds, probably as long as you're subscribed to Dice Friends. I recommend maybe subscribing to Dice Friends if you want to. I'm not your dad. I'm not going to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And then on Tuesday, we're back to 9 o'clock, followed by Talking Simulator, which is not Control. Perhaps they
actually finished that?
Did they finish Control? Or they finished the Control DLC?
It doesn't say that it's Control, so it must be something else.
Or possibly it just hasn't been updated.
Disco Elysium!
Speaking of which,
they did that one already.
let's nope. I believe they might be moving into the next Resident Evil thing, although apparently Resident Evil 6 is the best Resident Evil game. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I think they finished 6. I guess if Village is out, they could be going to 8, but maybe they'll just go to 7.
And then later that night after Let's Know will be more Betrayal at Krondor.
Yeah, Beach is on the Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday cycle of 8 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Oh, right,
Pacific
yes.
time.
I'm not intending to do more sessions for my PIF than you did, Paul, but I'm probably going to do more sessions of PIF than you
do. Okay, I don't understand what this is, but there seems to be
PIF
this
the Magic
low-lying
Dragon.
thing of like, who can get the longest PIF going? And
Weird
guess
kind
what?
of dick-waving contest
Paul-
we've got going on.
Paul was not
I-
longer than the last one, and
I-
you're not going to be either. And just get over it.
I was not involved in that in that competition in the sense that I was really trying to speed through some of the parts of my.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's good.
no. If Paul really wanted to be part of that competition,
true.
he could have taken the crown very easily
Yeah.
with that game,
Where
and he chose not to.
I am just swimming in the warm Jello bath that is Betrayal at Krondor. I'm taking my time.
What color
it
of
seems.
Jell-O?
It's
What flavor?
it's green and brown and weirdly pixely,
So it's like a lime,
kind of like a lime and
like a lime flavored Jell-O.
yeah, lime and chocolate.
Lime chocolate flavored
Chocolate
Jell-O.
lime. Ooh, I could make it mint. Chocolate mint. That'd
Oh,
be
chocolate
good.
mint, yeah.
Pixel Jello. All right. Thanks everybody for watching. Let's thank all the awesome people who subscribed during this stream because they are what helps make this whole thing possible.
Yeah.
Do 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 do.
And of course, thank you to everybody in the Patreon as well. Especially now as we're starting a new month. It's wonderful to see people still being there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it absolutely is wonderful to see your name still showing up in that. And for new people who are subscribing and adjusting.
Demon Fire gifted 5 subs. It's awesome.
And if you don't know, on Patreon, apparently some more local currencies have been supported. So if you're like Canadian or Australian or you're in England, you can convert to your own local currency if you prefer to be charged in that rather than having to pay weird adjustments. Because if you don't want to pay in US dollars, you could just pay in pounds or Canadian dollars or Aussie dollars or whatever. And then Patreon will do the conversion when it comes and hits our accounts. I have no idea if their exchange rate is any better or not.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, look to see if your currency's accepted.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And we will see all y'all later.
Bye.